Welcome back, guys. In today's video, I would like to talk about the Austrian Rapid and Blitz Championship, which has just concluded in Linz. And I was playing on Thursday and Friday. On Thursday was the Rapid Championship, and on Friday was the Blitz Championship. Actually, today and also yesterday, there are other tournaments, which are some team events, which are still played. I think they're playing still now the Austrian Team Rapid Championship. But I was only playing in the individual ones, and in this video I want to talk about my performance and about the event a little bit in general, how it was like playing there. Because as you will see, the whole tournament concept is quite different than usual tournaments, if you could say so. So it was an open tournament. By the way, before we get to that, just about the result, I became Austrian Vice Rapid Champion on Thursday, so the second best placed Austrian in the rapid section, and on Friday in the Blitz I became fourth due to the worst Buchholz behind international master Laurens Bormann, which is an okay result. My goal was to get two top three placements, but getting one silver medal is good, and I'm not really crying about this whole result. Other things are waiting in front of me. I'm mostly focusing on classical and not a huge rapid and blitz player, so I'm satisfied with how everything went, and had a nice time there, meeting a lot of friends which I haven't seen in a long time, and also meeting many of you guys which I had some nice discussions with. It's always nice to hear that people are following my channel and a lot of the work which I do, and always great to hear positive feedback on the things which I'm working on and publishing. So that really brought a big smile to my face always. Yeah, so about the event in general, I think this is quite interesting. The event was played actually in a shopping mall, which is quite unusual. You would add. You might want to add. The whole reason behind that is that the Austrian chess president is, I believe, the one of the marketing people behind in the shopping mall. I think some of his family owns the shopping mall, and therefore he has close connections and was able to make that happen. Which, of course, is, I think, great publicity for chess, because you have to imagine, well, on Thursday, the shopping mall is actually sort of closed. There were not many people there because it was a holiday in Austria. But on all of the other days, especially on Friday and on Saturday, there were so many people there, which, of course, were just going out to eat or just shopping with family or friends, which means that then people are walking right next to where we are playing chess, and it gives a lot of attention to chess, which is a great thing. I think chess needs publicity stunts like this. On the other hand, I might add some critique. I am not a big fan of making this an Austrian championship, because to have it as a private tournament, I think it's fantastic. And it can be federated, so obviously why not? Because in general, everything was professionally organized, and I've absolutely nothing bad to say about it. But as an Austrian or as a state championship in general, I think that there should be some more, you could say, serious conditions. Like, I mean, you have to imagine you're in a shopping mall, so people are walking right next to you. And it's very noisy. You can hear the music from all of the different shops surrounding you, and people walking by. Of course, I was wearing earplugs, and I didn't really care anyway. I'm in my zone, and didn't really matter for me while I'm playing. But yeah, I guess that you guys get my message. But overall, it is a very positive thing to organize events like this. This is the main message, but you also get the side of critique, which many people were also speaking out there. But overall, I had a great time there, and I guess now it is time to speak about the results. If we pull it up right here, you can see my performance in the Rapid tournament, which was on Thursday. In general, I think I'm usually performing better in Rapid than in Blitz, because in Rapid it's kind of like in the middle. In Blitz, I do think that you need a lot of practice and routine to be able to play well there, which for me is difficult, but because I very rarely play online and I almost never play any over-the-board Blitz tournaments either. And in Rapid, it's a bit easier for me to compensate for that. So in Rapid, I won my first 3 games. Then I drew against Benjamin Bock and Sergei Movsesian. This game we're actually going to have a look at. Then I won another game against Niels Willems. Then I lost, quite unfortunately, to Grandmaster Balok Imre, and in the last 2 rounds I was able to make 1.5 points. The penultimate round actually was quite unfortunate, where I should have won, but in the end it did turn out, I would say, well, because I was able to get the second place there, behind Valentin Bajdetsky, who I think won with half a point the lead in front of us. Another thing which should be added is that it was an open tournament, so everyone could participate, not only Austrians, which of course made the tournament a lot more interesting and a lot stronger than if only Austrians would participate. But I'm not so sure that, I mean, definitely this is not the way to determine the best player in Austria, because you need to have a lot of luck with the pairings. For example, you could play against a 2200, which is a real 2200 player because they play a lot of Rapid or Blitz. But you could also play against a 2200 Grandmaster because they just simply almost never play Rapid or Blitz, or they are very young. So a friend of mine, for example, he played against someone stronger and lost. Then he was playing down, and he got Grandmaster Jan Malek, who is a Polish strong Grandmaster, around 2500, but in, I think it was Rapid or Blitz, I'm not entirely sure now. But in that section, he had like 2200, which, you know, is not the opponent you're hoping for when you're playing down. Anyway, that's of course one thing to possibly criticize with the system. But it also has, of course, as I discussed, other positive things. So it's always difficult to find the right way there. But as I said, to determine the best player, you should probably have an event only consisting of Austrians, because I didn't play many Austrians in this tournament, for example. I mean, 3 in total. I think it was 3. I've spoken to some friends that didn't play against any Austrians, or maybe 1, which has kind of a funny look considering that it is an Austrian championship in the end. So I was the second best Austrian in the Rapid section, which then gave me the silver medal in the Austrian Rapid Championship. All right, so in the Blitz section, I was a bit more disappointed. I didn't gain almost any rating in both sections, in Rapid a little bit, but anyway, the rating in Rapid and Blitz is not the one which I care the most about. I also won my first 3 games here. Then I lost unnecessarily against Shimanov, had a great position there. Also against Jobava, we're going to have a quick look at that game later on. I just blundered a pawn outright out of the opening. Then I was sort of able to come back after that, but lost to Pirun in the penultimate round, which was also very unfortunate. And in the last round, I had to win against Olya Badelka, where I think I was one of the last games playing, because I was pushing some endgame, which we're also going to check out later on, but was not able to win in the end. And I think if I would have won, I would have probably been second or third place for sure. So yeah, I would have also considered that an unlucky pairing in the last round, because Badelka's classical rating is around 2400, and in Blitz it is only 2270. Anyway, I'm not crying about the result. I'm very happy with the silver medal in the Rapid, and please don't understand any of my constructive criticism in a negative way. These are just my observations, and in general, I think the event was well organized and got a lot of positive traction for chess as a sport. All right, so I would like to show you guys three of my games. The first one was in the rapid section against Sergei Movsesian, where I had the white pieces. Movsesian, if some of you have not heard from him, he was actually an elite player. I think his highest rating was around 2740. Now he's around 2600. I got my usual Reti, which I was playing mostly in this event. I think it was overall quite a nice model game, where some plans could maybe be useful for you to have seen before. In the game, h3, bishop h5, this was played, and now queen b3, queen b6, d3, and here Sergei played the move knight bd7, which is one of the logical reactions here. The other move is bishop e7, where white's idea is to play bishop e3 now. And now after black takes, I do have the doubled pawns, but I do also have some nice plans. For example, if black goes a6, only recently I found out about this nice maneuver, bishop d2, after which the bishop can come to c3, and then white's plan is to play with knight bd2, and then b4, knight b3, knight a5, to basically play on the queen side and also utilize the doubled pawns in a nice fashion. And those positions, similar to the game, can be quite unpleasant for black, even if they don't really look like it. Bishop d2 was kind of a new way of playing this for me. I only saw this recently. Before that, I once saw some plan like this. Not sure how exactly I get it, but one plan which I once saw was to get the knight to c2 and then to push for b4. For example, something like this, just to get it on the board, and then knight a4, possibly knight c5, install a bishop to d4. And also here some ideas like f4, g4, possibly trapping the bishop actually do exist, and usually this bishop on h5 is quite a problematic piece for the black side. Sergei played the move knight bd7. Now bishop e3 is less of an option because black can go bishop c5. Also, this is playable. I think white can do something like this here. But knight bd7 has one sort of drawback, which is that now I can take on d5. And usually now black would like to recapture with a c-pawn, but then the knight would prefer to go to c6. So often in this Reti line with bishop g4, this is quite a key idea. So whenever knight bd7 comes, then often you want to take on d5 because c takes d5 is going to be way less attractive for black. So he took back ed5, now queen c2. Looks like a loss of tempo, but now the queen in b6 is also a little bit misplaced, and what white wants to play for is this e4 push. And also those positions can often be quite unpleasant for black, because again I have ideas with knight h4, maybe knight f5, or just trying to trap this bishop somehow with later on f4, g4, f5. So Sergei played the move queen c5, and here I actually thought that I had this exact position in the Czech League only recently, but while I was checking this now, I realized that my opponent actually played with bishop f5 there, but also like a very similar position, just that his bishop is on f5, not on h5, and my pawn is still on h2. So this was what happened in my game in the Czech League, as you will see, very similar to my game against Sergei. Yeah, so this also happened there. Take, bishop d2, which was also still my game, just this was my game from the Czech League, but as I said, very similar. And here it was already quite instructive. I thought that a5 could be a move which he would like to make, because in the game then I got this b4 idea later on. And after a5, if I go a3, and again he could take and then maybe try to play a4, stopping my queenside play, or even consider to go back, which could be another idea, because now getting b4 is also not going to be as easy for me. He took on d2, which is also logical, but after knight bd2, after knight b takes d2, here actually black has a very instructive move, and a pretty important move, strategically speaking. He should now give up his bishop on h5. Bishop takes f3 is very important. Still, I would say that white maybe has a bit of an easier play here, but probably black should be completely fine as well. I don't know how exactly I take back, but the main reason why to take we're going to see in a second, because after he castled short, now I actually started with b4, but what would be stronger was to start with g4, and only after bishop g6 again, now only to play b4, because now he once again has problems with the bishop on g6. And in the game I started with b4, and it again gave him the chance now to take on f3 and then continue in, I don't know how I take back, knight takes f3, maybe rook e8, knight d4, something like a6. Still, I mean, I wouldn't be necessarily unhappy here with white, but it is a much better position than in the game just because he got rid of his bad bishop. After he played rook e8, now I got exactly what I want here. My knight is nicely installed on d4. Black has no real way to get rid of it. If he plays c5, I'm just going to take, and his d5 pawn is also weak. Still, he has big problems with the bishop here. I guess that concretely I could even think about going g5 and then maybe take on d5 at the right time. So he played h6. I'm just going to skip ahead a few of the moves now. I think my moves here were fairly logical. He doubled on the e-file. Actually here, after g5, I did already have sort of a knockout blow with the move knight a5, which I didn't really consider in the game because I thought that my strategical plan is just to fix his queenside here and then to sort of try to use my extra pawn here in the center, because his extra pawn on the queenside now is worth nothing. But I had knight a5, and after rook b8, I can actually just take on c6 here. And he does get 2 pieces for the rook, but apparently this position is just winning because still his bishop on h7 is not taking part in the game whatsoever, and my rooks have nice open files, especially the c file is probably gonna decide the game quickly. Yeah, but I played like this. Okay, let's again go through the game a bit faster here. I was just trying to improve my position a bit here. Keep in mind that it was a rapid game, so could not be precise on every single move. I thought this was quite a nice idea now. I mean, knight c5, of course, he is quite happy to exchange some minor pieces, I would say. But now at least the b7 pawn is really worth nothing. And I didn't really see a way to improve my position here anymore, other than going for this. And now my idea was to get knight b3 followed by rook b4, putting some pressure against b7, which I also did in the game. And here, an interesting idea, knight f5, exchanging my powerful knight against the bishop, because also here I didn't really see any way to make progress otherwise. He could think about moving the king at the right time, and then also g4 could become weak. And I still thought that I have pretty great chances here, because if I get d4, e3, my bishop can also be very strong on the light squares, and still he is down, more or less down a pawn on b7. So king f7, rook f4 back, trying to, okay, first of all, putting pressure here, but also at some point I want to go d4, and then my rook is again placed nicely on f4. Now knight d7, king f2. More precise would have been to start with d4, but I didn't want to allow rook e3 check. But it turns out I can just go for this anyway. King f2 allows him to take on c5, which he should have done, because this position, at least he has some counterplay. Maybe he can try to go after this pawn, but still, I mean, I'm the one who should be pushing here, because also his king is in a bit of trouble here. But he played passively with rook g6, and now my position is just strategically winning, because he's very passive. My bishop comes to d3 next, and both his f-pawn and his h-pawn are weak. I played quite well this stage of the game, I would say. Rook f5, knight f8, and now g5. He cannot take twice, because then he's just going to lose his rook on h8. So what he did was he played rook g6. I took on h6, played h5, which is still good. Knight e6, king g4, knight g7. And here I was down to seconds, and I didn't see one specific idea which would have won me the game. I just, with 1 or 2 seconds on the clock, played the move bishop c2, thinking that he's going to take on f5, after which it's going to be a draw, because I'm down an exchange, but he doesn't have any way to make any progress, because I can just park my bishop on g6. Still, his pawn here is not worth anything, and I can just wait around with my king, and he cannot make any progress. What I missed here was that if I go back with my rook, that I just have rook b1 here. I just completely forgot about this idea. And now I'm collecting his b7 pawn, and after that I'm also collecting his a6 pawn, and he can basically resign here. So that would have been a nice way to finish the game, which I think otherwise it was quite a nice and instructive game. And since I know that some of you are employing my repertoire, I thought that this could be some useful strategical knowledge to be aware of. And also, if you're black here, I've seen these ideas sometimes to just take on f3 at the right time to avoid this g4 idea, but it's always a good reminder to to see that. And also in the game, I forgot to, or just didn't think about including g4 first, which would have been more precise. All right, so the next bit I want to show you, I actually shared this on my Discord server in the morning. If you are not there yet, but if you are using Discord, make sure to join there. We already have a lot of members, and I'm quite active there as well. If you have any more questions, I'm usually trying to answer all of them. And one user was saying how he blundered badly in one of his recent games, and then I shared my game here against Jobava in the Blitz championship on Friday. And the position is completely normal. I would say that black has a not comfortable position, but it should be completely equal. And I was also aware of that in the game. But I made a pretty compulsive decision here, which is to go for the immediate move c4, just completely forgetting that he can now take with the bishop on c4. And I just lost the pawn immediately. So that was the worst blunder from the whole tournament, I think, for me. In general, I didn't blunder much at all, which I think was quite a good thing. But this was, this should probably not happen. If I make a move like rook b6, for example, and then prepare c4, or just go king g7 next. I mean, white also has some ideas of his own to go g4, f5. But now he really needs to watch out for my idea to go c4 next. So the position should be around equal here. After I blundered, I mean, I did play on for a bit, but it was quite an easy conversion for Badur right here. All right, so the final game, which I would like to show you, was from the Blitz Championship in the final round. And a very interesting endgame ensued. I had the black pieces against Oliver Badelka. It started with some sort of stonewall, me from the black side. Somewhere I was able to win a pawn. And then a position like this appeared. I think that the kings are placed correctly here. The game was not on the live board, just to explain why I was not so sure how the game exactly went. So I was trying to reconstruct how things went. And I did get most of the positions which definitely appeared in the game, even though some of the exact moves might be incorrect, but the positions I'm about to show you definitely appeared in the game. And I think this is one of them. And while I was playing the game, I thought that this would give me excellent winning chances. In Blitz especially, I was feeling quite happy here and thought that I have really great winning chances, but it turns out, I mean, let's do it like this. Do you think this endgame is objectively winning or not? I probably already spoiled things a little bit here, but let me know in the comment section down below, what was your first impression? Should black be winning here or not? Because usually in same color bishop endgames with being a pawn up, it usually means that you have great winning chances. Here, of course, you should add that my extra pawn is a doubled pawn, but still. Also, white's pawn here on c4 is fixed on a light square, but on the other hand, my a6 pawn is also fixed on a light square, which is the main problem. If those two pawns were, the white pawn would be an a4 and my pawn would be an a5, then I think it should be a very easy win for me, because I always have more weaknesses to attack, and also her bishop can never get inside here for counterplay. So I think the first thing which I did was to play bishop c6, just to avoid her bishop getting in. The pawn endgames should always be losing, because I can always just bring my king around and then just start pushing my pawns. And the extra pawn should then decide the game more or less easily. So she went back, keeping the bishops on the board. And now what I did was just to bring the king and push g5. Again, I think that some position like this appeared. I was actually analyzing this endgame just over the board with a friend of mine after the game concluded for like half an hour, because we were both quite interested without an engine at first. And we did come up with quite a few interesting winning ideas, but also quite a few drawing ideas. I think what I did in the game was to play e5 at some point. I also looked at bishop e8 first. And the whole essence of this endgame is that white should not allow my bishop to e2, because then it could go to d3, and then there are some possibilities for a zugzwang. So now white's only move to draw is actually to move king f1. And then again, white can wait maybe with bishop c2 next, just not letting the bishop into d1 or to e2. In the game later on, I did actually achieve something like that, but I think it was too late already. Okay, so something like this probably happened. I think I also played h5. If I don't play h5, I don't think it makes a big difference here. Just once again, after bishop g4 comes, now white needs to play the move king f1. And then again, white should be holding. The problem is I cannot do something like bishop f3 followed by king g4, because then always bishop a4 is already coming. And I really need to be careful not to blunder bishop b5, after which things could start going sideways for me pretty quickly. Okay, so I played something along those lines. White just has to wait passively here. And I think that I pushed h4 fairly quickly in the game. Also here, if bishop g4, then white has to play the move king f1. If king g4, then white has to play bishop a2. One nice trick here, which I was not able to see during the game, but afterwards in the analysis, is that the check on d1 actually fails because of f3, which is a counter check, and then the pawn on c4 is going to fall, which I thought was also quite a nice idea. But white can wait with the move bishop a2 still. Just you cannot go back with the king, because then, well, or cannot go to h2, because then I can always run in with my own king. Okay, so I think I played something like h4, and I'm not so sure when exactly I took on e3, but what looks like to me now is that the best try which I can do is to keep the tension as long as possible. Because what I got in the game, for sure, I can show you, is a position like this. I don't know exactly how I came in with the bishop, but this position, in fact, is still a draw. I thought when I got this in the game, like now, okay, I'm super happy white is in Zugzwang, but still she can just run with the king to d2, and then her bishop is getting out again. She played king f2. I thought that king h2 was the more natural move, just not to allow king h3. This is also a draw. But also the way she played is fine. And now the move king d2. And one idea which we came up in the analysis afterwards was that king f3 is an interesting idea, but white is holding here because of the move bishop b1, e3, and now bishop d3. Actually, now it's probably already winning for white, or is it? How is this position? Yeah, this should be winning. King e1 is coming next there, easily winning. Another idea, I guess, for me is to do this, which I actually haven't checked with the engine just yet. Something like king d3, I guess king d3. But in our analysis later on, we concluded that this has to be a draw here. I have 3 pawns, but they are not far enough advanced, I think, to have any serious winning chances. But the whole essence here is that if my f4 pawn and her f2 pawn are still on the board, then this whole piece sacrifice idea would be winning. So, for example, here in this specific position after bishop a2, I think that here bishop h3 check is actually winning. It could have been that this position actually appeared on the board, but I just wanted to show this winning plan. Because again, if bishop g4 is played, then white can make a draw with the move king f1. Actually here, there already might be the move bishop d1, because white doesn't have the bishop on b3. Still might be in time now with bishop b1. Even though now I get the endgame like in the game, just that the f-pawns are still on the board, which I think should also be a nice addition for black. Yeah, here the only move is king f1. In this position, king f1 is the only move. King h3, king e2, king g2. And now again, king e1 is the only move, because bishop a2 loses because of this idea, and now king f3. Also here, it's important that the f-pawns are still on the board, because otherwise king d2 would easily protect everything, but now I can just take on f2. So king e1 here was still the only move, and now king f3 can always still be answered by bishop d1 check. And otherwise, I don't think there's a lot of progress to be made here. So, yeah, after bishop a2 in this position, though, if this appeared, again, I'm not so sure. It's quite difficult to reconstruct such a long blitz game. But bishop h3 check would win here. And if king g1, king g4, bishop b3 now I can take, and then king f3, I'm just entering and winning the pawn. And if king h2, now there's bishop g4, bishop b3, and bishop e2. And just to show, yeah, for example, a line like this, now with the f pawn still on the board, now I'm just easily winning. So I'm quite curious if I did actually have this chance in the game, but I thought it was interesting to check this endgame. I guess it's you cannot really get something like this that often in a game, but I was really interested to see if it's winning or not. The whole objective evaluation from the start of it is that it's a complete draw, but practically speaking, it's not so easy. But now at least, if we ever get this endgame on the board, we know the best winning ideas and also the important drawing idea, which is that we should not allow the bishop to e2 or to d1 from the white side. What then happened in the game was that I got something like this and my bishop to c2. I think we already spoke about this one, and I still got another transition into an endgame, which was something like this. This position appeared in the game for sure, but now I really didn't see any way to make any progress. I mean, in the end, I was feeling already quite bad because I was playing this for very long. But you know, it was an important game for the tournament standing, so I was trying everything I could to do something here. I ran with the king back to d6, and then ran all the way back to f2 once again because I didn't see an idea here with the king. And then what I did at some point was to play c4 and c3 and go to an endgame like this. But here the problem is that whenever I play e4, white can just take, and then I have the wrong bishop, and this is also then how the game concluded. Also here I was trying everything. I was running back with the king and doing something, but I don't think there's a single winning idea. The only thing I can kind of hope for is that if white tries to come with the king at some point, okay, already some king b6 ideas might exist, but just what I want to point out is that actually here it's still a draw because white is still in time to come back with the king. Just if white is really careless, then this endgame is lost because white's king is not reaching the a1 square in time. Even though, is this exact position lost with the pawn on a5? Now I'm actually thinking about it. But it should be, because like if I take again, there's king c3 and white is getting back. But I have bishop c4 still. And it's also quite interesting. King a5, king d2 again. White is coming back in time. Let me check this quickly. If this with a pawn on a5, king e3. Yeah, this is probably still a draw here. My engine says -1. So, and what does the table base say? 0-0. So, yeah, probably should have known that too. That this is a draw. Anyway, in the game, I was hoping for something like this, but it's good to know that this appears to be still a draw. Actually, here bishop d3 is winning. Okay, that's quite interesting. King c5 and now bishop c4. That's a winning idea here. Just I guess if the king reaches this side of the board, yeah, now it is a draw already. Bishop c4, king e3, the only drawing move, and yeah, now just king e4, and it's still a draw. Anyway, the endgame analysis is getting a bit out of hand here. I hope that it was interesting for you guys to get a glimpse into the tournament in general and some of the most interesting moments, in my opinion, from my own tournament. As I said from the beginning, it's a great chess festival. I think that people are really happy to play there in general. I see that many teams are participating in today's event and in yesterday's event, and they're traveling from pretty far, many of the players. And it's a nice, in the meantime, tradition to play the event there. And I also had a pretty good time, as I said in the beginning, meeting some good friends, and also not complaining about the silver medal in the rapid section. So that was it for today. If you guys want to see more of me, you can head to the video description down below, check out some of my courses. If you are a German speaker, I would like to remind you again of my Nimzo Ragosin course, which has just appeared quite recently on Chessable. Apart from that, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys soon.